That seem to have that golden touch. Everything they touch turns to gold, but not always. Even the most successful investors have had their head handed to them. Have you thought you knew the way the markets were heading but did not have the money or the guts to follow through? Are you a contrarian? When investors are rushing into an investment, are you always wanting to head the other direction? All of this sums up parts of my next guest. What makes him tick? And how does he view the investment landscape? Joining me now, iconic investor, author of Street Smarts, Adventures on the Road and in the Markets, Jim Rogers. Jim, I've known about you for a long time. I've never met you before, and it's a thrill because you're just a very colorful character.
Well, Tom.
You came from a small town in the South, wound up at Yale, got in, kind of danced around some Wall Street firms. You had no idea what Wall Street was about. You didn't know the difference between a stock and a bond. And you made $1 bazillion and retired when you were 37.
Well, I've made a lot of mistakes along the way, too, as the book points out.
You said you got wiped out by trying to short a stock.
One of the first things that happened to me was I had a brilliant move. I made triple my money in 5 months. I thought, boy, am I smart. I found out very quickly I didn't know anything. The market showed me, we'll show you, boy.
Isn't that so true, though, of so many people who try something new? They try commodities or they try puts and calls and they do really well and they think, I've got it. I've got the secret. I've got the knack. But you do have the knack. Sure, you've made mistakes, but you've made a lot of money.
Well, back to your point, I want to say that I'm not the first person to say that a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. We all know that. You think you know a lot, but you don't, and that's when you make a lot of mistakes. I learned from that. I think it's wonderful to lose money when you do it when you're young and when it's not a lot of money, because it teaches you a lot of things about the market. And it teaches you about yourself.
Well, you started shorting stocks, and I don't want to get into a lesson here on shorting stocks with the audience, but basically you were betting on stocks that were going to go down and made you money. You got into commodities when nobody even knew what a commodity was.
Right.
How does your mind work? Because you go places that people don't want to go.
Well, I would like to figure that out because it is correct. And suddenly I find myself talking about Myanmar, and people say, what's Myanmar? I say, talk about North Korea, and they said, are you kidding? North Korea? Are you nuts? I don't know quite how it happens, but throughout my life, and whether it comes from my parents, I don't know, I do wind up in places that other people aren't visiting or talking about or investing in. But that's been one of the keys to my success. Tom, to the extent I've had any success, it's by going where the people don't go.
Yeah. But you did that when you were a young guy, but you've also had the luxury of, once you made a pretty good pile of money, you bailed. You and George Soros, the Quantum Fund. I mean, it was, and people think about, big investment firms and they think there's like tall buildings with people in them. It was you and Soros and a secretary.
That's all it was.
That was it.
Yeah, it was 3 hours over at Columbus Circle.
And you went from $12 million to $250 billion.
Yeah, in a fairly short period of time.
Yeah.
Well, we worked hard. We loved what we were doing. And we had a success. Now, I haven't seen George in over 33 years, so you might as well ask me about my first wife, because that's far, far distant.
Well,
in my past.
but it goes to the fact that you were being I don't know if it was contrarian the right word, but you were just observing things in life. But then, so you made your money. And then you go ride a motorcycle around the world. And you drove a custom-made car around the world. That's where I think your education would be really helpful, because you went places that nobody else even knows where they are on the map.
I know, but I've always had this sense of it, this thirst for adventures. As long as I can remember, since I was 16 years old or a teenager, I've always wanted to see the world. And so I said, all right, I've got a little bit of money, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, but you're not going to see the world like an American Express vacation package. You're going into these countries and looking around. And you went to, in the book you were talking about all the different countries in Africa you were driving around, and you got to Botswana. And you said, wow, look at this. They have traffic signals and it's orderly, and they seem to, I'm going to put some money into every stock in the Botswana stock market, which was, what, 8 or 9 stocks?
It was 7 stocks.
7 stocks.
It sounds like a big deal. I said, I bought every stock on the exchange, but there are only 7 companies listed.
But who knows about Botswana?
But not many people, and not many people now. I guess you're exactly right. But it turned out to be a very, very successful investment, because I could see this was a real country. I might as well have been in Paris after driving through all of Africa and suddenly coming to a place that had real roads, real hotels.
You remind me of the investment sage. You're giving the same one in this book that Peter Lynch gave. Don't invest in things you don't know. Invest in things that you do know and know a lot about.
Just don't do. Put your money in the bank and earn 1% if you have to, because it's better than losing 1 or 2% a year. Just wait. I assure you, you will find something that you know a lot about where you can make money, and that's how you become a successful investor.
Yeah, but one of the things about, on a different path, but about waiting, you talk about the fact, I think you had shorted something, but you knew it was going to go down, but unfortunately, you ran out of time.
I went down first.
You went down first. So you've got to be careful with this. I mean, your book is really fascinating.
Thank you.
But you've got to be careful. This isn't for the average investor out there, I don't think.
Well, it is for the average investor if he's willing to take the time and energy and do the homework. Investing is not an easy business. Oh, my goodness, it's not an easy business. Everybody likes to watch you on TV and hear people make a lot of money. That's not the way most people are. You've got to take the time and the energy, and then you can make a lot of money.
Yeah, I stand corrected. You're right. Anybody can do this. It's just a matter of you got to do the work.
I wish it were easy to get rich. Oh, my goodness, wouldn't it be wonderful if it were easy to get rich? We'd all be rich.
I'm just going to follow you around and see what you're doing. Jim Rogers, pleasure to meet you.
I'm delighted to be here, Tom. Thank you.